Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Afternoon Edition. My name is Issa Nu. Today we shall be focusing on the burning issue that is currently ongoing in the country, and that has to do with the nationwide protest. And just a few minutes back, a colleague of mine just informed us about the press briefing by the CDS office with respect to the issue of the nationwide protest. And you know, the federal government has warned that there will be a dire consequences for the stability of the country if a nationwide protest being planned by some Nigerians goes ahead from the beginning of next month. Secretary to the Government of the Federation in person of Senator George Akume met with ministers in his office behind closed doors to try to avert the protest. But Nigerian Labour Congress yesterday dismissed report that it was withdrawing from the proposed nationwide protest by some citizens over the harsh economic conditions in the country, saying it cannot be part of an idea that did not emanate from them. But then the Southeast Governors Forum has also put their ways against this particular protest, stating that already they have so much on their table, and there's this particular time that they need to actually call people together and see how they can solve the problem instead of going for the protest. So at the same time, some stakeholders, including some northern governors groups, have also called on other stakeholders that are part of this particular protest to withdraw and then come to the dialogue table for them to be able to discuss and see what their demands are and how they can go ahead in solving it. But then so many issues just within few days, and today 25th of this particular month, definitely just having 5 days. But then the Lagos State government have also drawn another line that there will be Oro Festival in Lagos, and it will clash with the date of the protesters, the day the protesters are also set aside for them to be able to protest. And as a result of that, they will be tuning down some of the activities of the protest in order for them to be able to carry out that particular festival. So there are so many issues surrounding this issue of protest in the nation, and we are looking at a situation whereby we've seen what happened in Kenya, we've seen what happened during the Middle East uprising, so many issues. And many Nigerians are actually saying yes, despite the fact that we are calling for protest they are calling for protest at this particular point in time, there are so much that needs to be done by the government. And then recently the government also passed the bill with respect to the 70,000 naira minimum wage, and also the House of Rep members have called that, look, they also have to make their contribution to this particular issues that Nigerians are drawing by slashing their salary by 50% in order for them to be able to ameliorate the challenges that Nigerians are facing. So today we'll be having that conversation with two guests, one being a journalist, and then the other one is also the founder of Nigerian Nexus, to tell us more about this particular protest, what they seek to achieve, and at the end of the day, how can this protest be downplayed in such a way that it will be better for Nigerians if the government is ready to give them the necessary support to see that, okay, all the issues you've raised, these are ways we are going to solve it. Will they be able to say, okay, so let us take ourselves aback and see if the government is going to do it? But then there are so many issues, and these are the issues we'll be discussing today on the program. And the minister voiced concerns that arsonists and criminals might be waiting to hijack the planned protest, just like we saw during the NSAS protest, and unleash violence on innocent Nigerians. And these are the issues we are avoiding in most of the protests, because at this particular point in time, many Nigerians are saying they are suffering, and is the protest the solution? These are the key questions. And if the protest is the solution, who are the managers of this protest? So today we'll be having just two guests who will be talking more on this particular issue. So I'll go on a very short break, and when we return, we continue with the conversation. Welcome back. We apologize for that delay in the commencement of the conversation. And just before the commencement of this conversation, and I did inform you guys that we'll be having two of our guests here. One is Honorable Fowobi Desmond Olarewaju, who is also the founder of Nigerian Nexus, and also a former, or let me say a current journalist, a former reporter for Punch and Sahara Reporters, and also an activist in person of Abiodun Sanusi, who are joining me this afternoon. Mr. Abedi, good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon edition.
Oh, good afternoon.
This is my first time carving you out of your niche and bringing you to a live studio program for us to have this conversation, because so much has been happening with respect to the level of security awareness that is being created now. Looking at the terrain that we are now, there are so many issues, and I know you are aware of issues like this. You've covered, you've journeyed through all this path in the past, and the issue of protest in Nigeria. Why do you think people are agitating always that we should always call for protest?
One thing you should know is that Nigeria is one of the poorest countries in the world. Wherever the economic situation of a country is not favorable to the citizens, citizens are bound to call for a change, whether a change in the policies of the government or an outright exit of the president from office. Because today in Kenya, Kenyans are calling for President Ruto to resign. People in the United States of America are currently calling for President Biden to resign. That's the US, the whole US, a developed country. So it is not new for people or citizens to call for their president to resign or to call for protests in demand for change. Nigeria is tough today. People are hungry. Poverty is everywhere. People are feeling insecure. Boko Haram hasn't stopped attacking. Banditry is increasing in the north central and the northwest. Cultism has become a bane in the southwest region. IPOB activities is increasing in the southeast. People are not safe. They are calling on the government and the military and other security agencies to ensure the safety of their lives. People are dying of hunger. We don't have good healthcare system. People are calling for change. That is the reason why people always call for protest and are still calling for protest now. So it is not a new thing. Even the incumbent president himself protested several times. He protested under military regimes. In 2012, I protested alongside himself and Professor Wole Soyinka, the likes of Mr. Sowore, in Lagos, in Ojota, and later Modumaki and his wife. It was that 2012 protest that eventually brought in the APC 3 years after, when President Jonathan was voted out. So why are the APC members or supporters of the president against protest now that their own man is in power?
If you look at the antecedent of all these issues, you've raised the question also there that on several counts there have been protests.
Yeah.
But has it actually yielded the best for the nation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what are the indices to show that protests? Because you've mentioned the issue of the 2012 protest, you've mentioned that of 1999, you've also looked at the Nadeko issue and the rest of it.
Yes.
But still we are still calling. So has it actually climaxed that particular point where we want to get to?
Okay, you know, there is a popular saying amongst the activists, or let me call them the leftists, that freedom cometh by struggle. The military were chased out of power through protests. Several protests. Nadeko, then NAS, not today's NAS, that have become political stooges to politicians. You know, Nadeko and other Nigerians, students and even youths, chased out the military via protests, several protests over time. The 2012 protest was what made former President Jonathan to resign on his subsidy removal. So I was even surprised that President Tinubu removed subsidy, and you know, Nigerians were quiet. President Tinubu was among the people who led Nigerians to protest against subsidy removal under former President Jonathan. And he reversed that decision in January 2012. People had traveled to their home states in December 2011 after he just won an election. And before they came back, you've removed subsidy, and petrol prices skyrocketed. People couldn't come back to the places they were living.
I'll come back to you because apart from the issue of President Tinubu removing subsidy, you also understand that the former President Buhari also made statement before he left. Even as at that particular point in time, he was also thinking of removal of subsidy before he suspended the issue. But let me quickly move back to Olariwaju. He has raised an issue which has to do with the present government and then the issue of the nationwide protests that people have been agitating for. What's your take on all this?
Thank you, Issa, and good afternoon, Nigerians. It's good to be in ASOS Television once again. I want to say I am one of the Nigerian, among the Nigerian youths that have lived a life of protest. Every day, every minute, every hour, I protest. Because protest could be relative what you call protest might not be what I call protest. Apart from the dictionary definition of protest, it is a way of expressing dissatisfaction about a particular style of government, system, or policy. And it is an integral part of democracy to protest. But what are the modalities of protest? And why should you go into protest? Well, Nigeria, let me fast track to 2024. Nigeria have had their fair share of protests, violent protests, since 1922, when we had the Aba women riots. Then fast track to 1947, when we have the Abeokuta women riot revolts. And then we have had 7 different protests. And none of these protests have left Nigeria the way it met Nigeria. Why we initiate these protests? To advocate for positive social change. Do you know that protest in Nigeria has led to wanton loss of lives and properties, and even orchestrated some deviant behavior in the society that are orchestrated into what we have today as Boko Haram and so many other things? That is where they learn their trade. Well, I don't want to speak strongly against protest because I've lived a life of protest. Before I came to studio this afternoon, I have been protesting on my social media handles, protesting against policy. And then, you know, it is very important you understand that in a gullible society like Nigeria, where misinformation is the order of the day, and where so-called elite, where so-called educated young people are not even informed about the style of government we have, the task of government we have, the system of government we run, who is their councillor, who is their chairman, who is their governor, what is expected from a president, what is expected from a governor, what is expected from the National Assembly. When we have graduates who cannot in clear terms give you a proper understanding of what governance is all about, and then you want few people who have this knowledge and want to hide under, maybe who are not happy with the system of or particular government in power, based on maybe opposition party, or people who contested the same seat with the president and are not happy with the conduct of the election, now hides under the guise of protest to now mobilize young people because of their economic status to now do campaign. It will interest you. In 2020, during the EndSARS, there are a lot of people who have interacted with. Why are you protesting? They do not even have one simple answer apart from the popular hashtag EndSARS. Some of them do not even know why they were there. Some of them just knew that they slept in their house, woke up at that place because they mobilized them with vehicles, give them incentives, give them money. And one of the things that people find attractive at campaign or protest ground is because there is money to be given to them, and at the end of the day there will be food. And you know, the country is, like my brother said in the studio, that Nigeria is poor. Nigeria as a country is not poor. Nigeria is one of the richest country in the continent of Africa. But the problem we have is that we have poor leaders with poor reasoning, without innovative leadership skills. That is the problem we have with our leadership. But because of the style or the kind of people that the system have upshoot to become our leaders, because they have poor mentality, so reflection of those leadership is the poverty we are seeing in town. Now it is easy for me to mobilize 1,000 people, 10,000 people to actually join my protest because I have the money to give them, not because they understand why they should protest. So if we are in a country like that, everything about physical protest might be injurious to the country. Apart from physical protest, I do a lot of protests. I love Sowore. Sowore do a lot of protests on social media. Look at this man called Reno Omokri, Pastor Reno. He do a lot of protests every day, and you see some of these sound protests they made on the social media and all that has helped in a long extent to reshape the way government is now being handled. Do you know how many people that social media protest has let out of office? Do you know why a lot of people voted for APC in 2015? Because of some of the orchestrated protests by the young people on the social media. And that was when I knew that the best platform where you can actually go and do your protest, let's have a general hashtag, let's go on Twitter, let's go on social media and drag the policies of this government like generators. that it will get to them.
But then in this particular case, I would like Abiodun to respond to this, because he has brought another form of protest now, not having it physical, but having it online. And they said the youth seems to be more on Twitter than even on the street. So do you agree with this is mindset of how to vent your anger on the government?
No, I vehemently disagree.
Okay.
You don't determine how people show their grievances towards the government. It is their right, as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution, as amended, that every citizen of Nigeria has a right to peaceful demonstration and peaceful assembly. That is sacrosanct. You don't decide for people. I could decide to start protesting from January 1st to December 31st. It is my right. The Nigerian Constitution gave me that right. The United Nations Convention gives me that right. The African Union Charter gives me the right. So nobody, not even President Tinubu or any of his acolytes, should determine for people how to protest. Of course, people protest on social media. It's just part of it. People still have to put their foot on the ground. There was Twitter in 2012. President Tinubu protested both on Twitter and on ground. So why should anyone tell Nigerians to only protest on Twitter now? People have the right to protest anywhere, and I'm glad he mentioned the 2020 NSAS protest, and that brings me to the fact that putting your foot on the ground changes a lot of things. Do we still have SARS in Nigeria? Yes or no?
Yes, we have advanced SARS.
No, but we have SARS, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad.
No, their mentality has been changed. They have been retrained, and they gave them a new brand name.
I'm a national security correspondent. SARS doesn't exist anymore. I cover the police, cover the defense, and other security agencies. SARS doesn't exist anymore, and it was due to that protest. Before then, there were people like Sega, there were people like Femi Kuti, and even Mr. Shuwe, who had always come once in a while to say, oh, end SARS. And most of this thing was about advocacy, like you said. People will be on Twitter, but when people decided in October 2020 that they will stay on the street until that they won't leave the streets until the government, that was former President Buhari's government, disbanded SARS. And the government did. Police brutality, decreased. And there's something I want you to note, which is what, despite the fact that I'm not a friend of the police, when former Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, was leaving the office, I wrote a feature on that. After NSAS, the Nigeria Police Force started taking seriously the issue of police brutality. Under former IG Baba, a lot of police officers were dismissed for either receiving bribes or assaulting Nigerians, and it was as a result of the 2020 NSAS protest. Before then, the Nigeria police leadership was always lackadaisical. You would complain about police brutality, and the police would not do anything. They'll tell you you are investigating, and you won't get any result. But under Baba, just put that video online, or maybe you report it on Punch or Sarai Reporters or Premium Times, and you see that the IG is saying that we've invited so even if the police officer is in Kano or Benin, and there will be videos, the press will be invited to see how they either deranked or dismissed them. So this is what protest does. Tweeting on Twitter does not resolve most issues. Yeah, you just see probably an aide of the president or APC urchins come online and tell you that, the president is doing his best, he did this for... No. When you put your foot on the ground, you will see physically that Nigerians are hungry and angry.
But one fear that people also have during this protest, you've rightly stated that the economic situation now is not the best.
Yeah.
And you see so many people suffering. And at the same time, again, we've also noticed on several counts, just like that of Kenya, just like that of South Africa, even in Bangladesh, where a protest took place, you also discover that sometimes these protesters, even the organizers of the protest, cannot even put it on hold or control it to an extent in such a way that it will yield them the best. And it makes it very difficult for them to actually achieve their major goal. You see, sometimes these protests have been hijacked. So how can you now say that you want to have a protest where you cannot actually control the number of persons who are involved in it?
From my experience as an activist and also a journalist, I know, for a fact, that I believe that protests are usually hijacked most times by agents of the government, quote and unquote. It could be agents of the federal government, there could be agents of state governments or whatever agency of government. In 2020, like you said, there were times we were protesting and you just see hoodlums. If protesters are being attacked, is it possible for protesters protesting for the same cause to attack each other? No. You see hoodlums, they were loaded. The one that happened in my presence at Alausa in Lagos in 2020, they were loaded with BRT buses. The BRT bus in Lagos belonged to the Lagos state government. They were loaded and they started jumping out of the BRT buses and attacking protesters. But of course they were overpowered and handed over to the police because we are not violent. We won't assault anybody. We are agile. Nigerians are very strong people. We'll just hold you and hand you over to the authorities.
Let me quickly allow Fobi to also state something, because he has mentioned something that they can control the people that they are bringing on the street. How do you see that possibility?
Issa, my dear brother, I have always maintained this position that history is very, very important. At least if you don't know where you're going to, you should know where you are coming from. From the antecedents and the available facts. Yeah, it's possible you can shift responsibility. Not everybody is man enough to take responsibility for failures or mistakes. They always want to blame another person. It's either you want to blame government, you want to blame one police, you want to blame other people. But let me tell you, Nigeria has been able to maintain over 21 years of democracy without being hijacked by the military. That is to tell you that Nigeria is a work in progress. For me, the problem of Nigeria is beyond this object we discuss on televisions. Every day when I see people, they are discussing about the object of Nigerian problems, it beats my understanding. Nigeria have more issues that are core issues. Issues, what are the issues that degenerated into conflicts? Why are we asking for protests? What is the problem with the Nigerian society? What is the problem with our economy? Why are Nigerians hungry in a land of plenty? Those are the fundamental questions as human, as Nigerians, that we need to ask ourselves. If you are not motivated to answer those questions, I have the motivation to answer. I did peace studies for 4 good years in school. I did 4 good years research into the causes of our conflict in Nigeria. Let me tell you, nobody would have done better than what the president is doing. I am never a fan of the president. He has some of his flaws. I criticize some of his flaws. Declaring subsidy removal on 29th of April 2023 is the biggest blunder any president that has people at heart will do. But that is not to say that that policy does not have the interest of the national growth and development of this country. And don't forget that there are people who are also interested in jeopardizing. They will not bring out $1 million for a good cause, but they can bring $2 billion, according to the information I'm getting now, to sponsor protests. Most of these guys have been paid. I was approached myself. I was even asked if I have a Bitcoin account, so that I can mobilize through my People's Reporters Network to see how people can join the protest. And I said no. I wrote strongly against it, and I said I'm not going to do it. That is not to tell you that we do not have progress we are making as a country. There are some corrupt members of this government that they need to go. In the first place, I do not know who advised the president to appoint them, either as ministers or head of agencies or MDAs. But protest has never yielded any positive result. Do you know the number of destruction that NSAS, despite the fact that we're able to record 1 or 2 positive news or result from that protest? Do you know that this NSAS sent Nigeria backward, 20 years backward in terms of development? NSAS is one of the reasons why we are where we are today. Because a lot of people left Nigeria. Do you know that there were open opportunity for hoodlums, thieves, burglars to loot businesses dry because of protest? Now, what I want to tell you is this. We talked about hardship. What is the cause of Nigeria hardship? Naira floating, subsidy removal. Those are the major problems. And then, when I said, understand who is our enemy, is Tinubu our enemy? No. Our enemies are the people who have ganged up against Africa. Nigeria is not the only country that is bereaved. Africa as a whole is on the map for a series of economic and political challenges, conflicts across Africa. That is the program of doom influenced by these our conglomerate companies. Look at all the big organizations in Nigeria. Who owns them? These people shape our life. Who owns Ajib? Who is the owner of Shell? Who is the owner of Totals? Who are the people managing our business in Nigeria? Who are our major producers? Who decides the prices of things in the market? These same international people, these same foreign people, this same shadow party that have huge interest in Africa. Africa is a land of wealth. Africa should be the richest continent in the entire world. But the wealth is not reflecting because of the so-called garment of colonial masters that these Oyinbo people wear, and they implant their businesses across Nigeria.
But don't you think that is where Abiodun is coming from? That
no, you are not protesting. See, let me tell you something. Let me tell you. Most of us,
the issue of neocolonialism that you've raised now, these are not the same white people that we're having as our leaders today, and that is what he's saying. Now we have ourselves as our leaders, and those leaders are not actually doing what
Africa is not. Let me,
but it is a democratic process that we are practicing.
Yes. Let me tell you the truth. So Nigeria has been given political independence, but has not been given economic independence.
Neocolonialism still.
Neocolonialism, and that is the reason why I strongly supported the Sahel states for breaking out from West Africa, ECOWAS. The three countries who broke out and formed their own country. I support them, Mali and Chad and Co. Do you know why? Because they are fighting against injustice.
They protested against injustice.
The injustice. Now, do you know that?
Don't you think that
now,
is the same?
Let me tell you, we have a bigger problem.
Yes.
The bigger problem we have, if you don't know the cause of your problem, you are the matter it when you are trying to look for solution. You are looking for solution through protest, but you don't know the cause of our problem. Okay. Do you think it is the policy of Tinubu that brought hunger to Nigeria? Do you think it is the subsidy remover alone or the floating of our naira alone that is causing Nigeria to be poor?
Phobia has raised an issue here, which is very, very critical, that at some point it seems like there is no clear direction of what some of these protests also want to also achieve at the end of the day. So are there items you guys think the government is not doing well apart from the issue of economy? What other issues do you think the government is not addressing and that is actually calling for this? Because he is saying that there is most often there is always a disarray from the main objective of this particular protest, and sometimes some of these issues that we are having as a nation could have international dimension, which I can also state that yes, with what is happening in the Sahel, in the sub-Saharan Africa now, you know, there is one implication or the other between the ECOWAS and the Sahel region. So what's your take on this particular issue? Is there a direction for this?
Those claims are what we call government propaganda. They are government propaganda. You know, you are a journalist just like myself. Yes. So you should be able to spot government propaganda when you see one. You know, I laughed when he was mentioning neocolonialism. It is funny that African leaders or their supporters, whenever they do not want to take responsibility for their actions, they revert back to blaming colonial masters. You know, Nigeria has been handed over to Nigerians since 1960. It is how will I put it? It is unreasonable that after so many years, this is 2024, they are still blaming the underdevelopment of Nigeria on the whites, on so-called colonial masters. South Africa just gained independence around late 1990s. South Africa is more developed than Nigeria.
How?
More developed.
Continue.
Yes, more developed than Nigeria. You know, there's one thing he mentioned, which is also an allegation, the first one at that people were paid. I would like him to probably provide evidence. Mention names. Who are those that reached out to you to pay you 2 million naira, or was it dollars you called it, to organize or join the protest? I've always protested.
But are these protests, I would like to, are these protests self-motivating or they are actually induced?
They are not induced.
Are they organized?
Yeah, they are well organized because Nigerians are organizing to step on the street.
The question now will be, how will you be able to get funds to manage the issue of the protest? Because definitely you have to move people from point A to B, or you just be working.
You don't have to move people.
So how do you get?
You don't have to move people. Protest. We have 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory.
Yeah.
That was 37 territories in Nigeria.
You have leadership in all of these states.
Nigerians are the leaders themselves. This is a protest that is organized by Nigerians. In Abuja, people would be converging at the Eagle Square and heading towards the National Assembly to protest. The state houses of assembly across the nation has been chosen as protest ground. So Nigerians everywhere, your home is just to get to the assembly, to the state house of assembly in your state, or the National Assembly, as in the case here in Abuja.
But that's
you protest. You don't need to spend any money
whereby
to get anybody down here.
In most cases, you get clearance for this protest. A situation whereby the commissioner of police or maybe the head of the security agency in that state or the state governors did not give clearance for such, will the state still, will people still go out to protest? And don't you think that will call for anarchy?
No. Not granting. In fact, let me tell you, what the Constitution says is totally different. The Constitution does not say one should take any permission from anybody, whether the government or the police, to protest. Where this came in was, it was in 2014, if I could recall, when it was these same people, the Tinubu and Buhari people, they were the ones. When the former President Jonathan's government was against their 1 million man march, which was held in Lagos. I was in Lagos then. It was held in Surulere. So, lawyer Barrister Falana, SAN, was the one who approached the court on behalf of Nigerians when they were saying, you must get clearance from the police. And they went to the court, and the court granted that, of course, citizens could or can approach the police that we want to protest, we need you to secure us, to protect us, not to give us permission. The Constitution does not say you need permission from government, or it says that Nigerians, that citizens have a right to peaceful assembly, peaceful demonstration. It didn't say that you must approach the police. The Commissioner of Police in the FCT, CP Bennett Igwe, was saying he was urging citizens. He can only urge us. CP Igwe cannot mandate citizens not to protest. The IGP himself, look at the Egbetokun, cannot mandate citizens not to. They can only urge that, please, we urge you not to protest. And that is their security agencies. They are leaders of security agencies.
And their reason may be as a result of probably getting security intelligence with respect to either pro or anti-government.
They've always gotten security intelligence about Boko Haram attacks. Has it stopped Boko Haram attacks? Why are they not stopping the Boko Haram attacks? I got an intelligence myself. Very recently, it was reported on Premium Times, before the defense headquarters even mentioned it, that ISWAP and Boko Haram were planning to bomb oil pipelines and attack Nigerian prisons. The military didn't say anything until I published that story on Premium Times. Then the next day, the defense headquarters said, it is true that Boko Haram and ISWAP are planning to attack major infrastructures in the country. So are those the kind of security agencies that we are supposed to trust? If a journalist hadn't gone back to do his own job to expose this, the military would have kept short.
In 30 seconds, let me have a rounding thought with respect to this particular issue of protest. Do you think it is the best time? In 30 seconds.
There's no other best time than now. This is the best time for Nigerians to step on the streets. Even Nigerians abroad should approach all Nigerian embassies and protest. People are dying. People are hungry.
But let me get your view on this. What's your rounding thought on this?
Let me tell you, if Nigeria likes, let Nigerians protest for 1,000 days. Nothing will change until we start changing our mentality. Nigerians, be over here, you, every one of us, we need to change our thoughts. We need to change our disposition towards this country. We need to change our approach towards this country. When there is no value reorientation and change of mindset, when we cannot co-opt elements like love, tolerance, and kindness to one another, Nigeria cannot change. Protest can't change anything. It will only give you a temporary opium, and that is what we've been getting since 1960. The truth of the matter is that average Nigerians is looking for opportunity to put his name on the paper. They are looking for opportunity to create chaos deliberately and to extort the system. That is all what they are doing. Genuinely, these people asking for protest, what can they do differently? I was expecting you, Issa, to ask my fellow colleague in the studio here, what would he have done differently, to safeguard the Nigeria economy that have been dollarized, an economy that have been largely exploited by few people, an economy that promotes the worst of us. See, the biggest protest should start from our mindset. Seriously, you need to refine yourself. When you refine yourself, you change, I change. I'll tell you, leadership is a reflection of the total society. And if you get there, you can't do anything differently.
Thank you so
because
much.
you've not been able to tell us today what you think is wrong with the policy. And the solution, or you would have made a beautiful suggestion. You've not talked about that. Maybe by now you've not even started thinking about the solution to Nigeria problem. The only solution you're thinking about now is protest, and that will lead us nowhere. So my dear brother Biodun, you need to first of all refine your mind, think about the society, and think about how Nigeria can get better. That is even when I change, when you change, that's when Nigeria can get better. It's not through protest.
Thank you so much. This is how far we can go today. This is how far we can go today. It's a very hot one here today. Having conversation with these two major activists in the country, in person of Mr. Biodun Sanusi and also Honorable Fowobi Desmond, who have also been discussing critical issues on nationwide development. But then, this is how far we can go today on this edition, and definitely we'll be talking more as we have more developing stories coming up just after this particular program during our news, and definitely hear what the GHQ have to say with respect to the nationwide protest. So we'll go on our last part of it for this week, and definitely by next week we'll come up with new edition of this particular program for us to have major conversation on issues. My name is Issa Nu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.